Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and we're sitting down to talk about The Outer Worlds 2, which there is much to be said about. We already have a 30-minute developer direct, a brand new trailer at the front of the Xbox Game Showcase, and on top of that, a ton of content from IGN First. I was a little worried going in for The Outer Worlds 2, not because anything looked bad with it, in fact, quite the opposite. I thought it looked excellent. Bigger, better Outer Worlds. Sign me up. I love the first game. But it was really, do you have enough content to show? And indeed, we have a lot of content to go through today, and we can answer that question. But also, we have to talk price tags. $80, $100 versions. That is a lot of money, and I feel like Xbox should have let Call of Duty take the fall, not The Outer Worlds 2 as the second $80 video game. There's much to get into today, and we'll talk all about it, but if you're new here, you're into what's going on with The Outer Worlds 2, consider subscribing, and now, a quick word from today's sponsor. The following video is sponsored by Opera GX. Are you tired of your normal, boring, everyday scrolling experience on the internet? Do you want to enhance your internet experience? Well, I have a solution for you. Easily my favorite thing about Opera GX is the modding experience. The way you can just customize your browser, icons, music, tabs, all that stuff. I picked some really random ones to show you this time. I finally watched season 1 of Arcane. I was like, you know what? I could get down with a little bit of that. So I changed my wallpaper to something more Arcane focused. But then I was thinking Star Wars, and when I searched it up, Lego Star Wars was the first option to pop up, and like, y'all know, hang on, I'll show you. This isn't like every Lego game I have, but I pretty much own every single one of them. So I was excited to see there was like a Lego Star Wars mod available here. Take a listen. All we need is like the rebel death grunt when you X out a tab, like, whoa! And they also support a lot to get you in there quickly and stay doing what you're doing. Let's say you're like watching this video and you want to stay watching this video while doing something else. Well, you can just like do picture in picture and have me in the corner at the same time as you browsing. What if you're also someone who wants to import all of your features from your old browser into this one? There's a quick import feature that you can bring in from very popular browsers and just load it back up, and it's like your old browser, but brand new and a lot cooler. So what are you waiting for? Upgrade your internet game right now. There will be a link in the description down below. Free to try. Go ahead, have some fun, and shout out to Opera GX for sponsoring today's video. One thing that really excited me about The Outer Worlds 2 really was how much Obsidian leaned into New Vegas. I mean, they brought it up multiple times throughout the presentation in the developer direct, and then they showed things that were very New Vegas-esque or just Fallout coded. I mean, this really feels like the Fallout spirit animal I've been searching for. Adamfall really did answer a lot of the things I was looking for in the terms of exploration, but Obsidian has proven they can do that really well. So very excited about that. But as they got into more granular detail, my excitement for The Outer Worlds 2 grew, because some things I was wondering about were like story details. We'll talk about that, but really what I want to focus on are the RPG systems, the character building systems, because they look really good. And again, totally stripping the system from New Vegas and putting it here, which I'll never argue with. So it starts off with who you are. You're an Earth Directorate agent. You're a little bit less of a blank slate, all things considered, but you can still change your background and everything. So you could be a lawbringer, where if you're an Earth Directorate agent, you're here to like do good. Or you could be what they call a roustabout, where you kind of just ended up here like, oh dude, oops, I shot the big bad villain in the head, and like, I guess I'm the center of this whole thing, man. Like, is there a cashier job around here or something like that? But then they start to get into each layer of the character building. Like, okay, backgrounds, probably going to be flavor dialogue. But then they start to show off traits that impact exploration. Like, hey, you're brawny, therefore you can unjam this door with your raw strength. Or engineering, where you can grease the gears on this door and unlock it that way. Or are you just a dumb character? Do you jam a tin can of food into a fuse slot, and that's how you turn on the power in this place? Like, there's a lot of options on how you build your character, and that influences the exploration, which I love. And we'll talk about the bridge mission later, where they really showcase how many ways you can get around this game. It kind of takes a lot of what Avowed was starting to do, but I don't think did super well. And I think doing it, just at least on the outside looking in, already much, much better. Not leaving behind those role-playing mechanics for better gameplay. We also saw some other traits in the menus, like being heroic allows people to look up to you, but all of them have their own gameplay buffs. Like, hey, if you're heroic, you also reduce your ability recharge time. Or if you're brilliant, you're basically an intelligence build. If you select too many of these positive traits, though, then you start to get negative traits. Again, something that New Vegas had, where you had these negative traits, these trade-offs, if you will, like no faction trusting you, or that dumb one I mentioned earlier. So this is like the surface level of character building. Then they get into skills. Skills were already in the Outer Worlds, but the way they were balanced, I don't think was really fantastic, but I think that was because of the way that they all scaled at once. Now they slimmed it down, which I think was a really, really good choice because less is more in this case. So you have everything from lockpicking to melee, medical, observation, leadership, sneak, science, speech, so many more, but then these filter into perks. So again, think of New Vegas where you had to have certain skills to unlock certain perks, and I saw like 19 that were available at level 10, and then they had like 71 more available beyond that. So there's a lot to pick from depending on what you select for your character, not just in your skills, but even characters like the serial killer perk were only available if you picked the psychopath perk. So you can really get deeper and deeper into a particular build. They showed some like Commando. It gives you an additional weapon equipment slot, but you need to invest in melee and guns. Or Sharpshooter, which gives you an additional 100% sneak damage and also plus 30% damage to enemies far away, but minus 15% to enemies close up. But you need to upgrade your guns and observation for that. Or pickpocketing is only available if you've invested points into lockpicking. Heavy-handed is where you can knock enemies down with a power melee attack, but you need to invest in melee for that. The serial killer was one directly mentioned where they said you can kill enemies and take their hearts and your overall health count gradually goes up, which I found to be an interesting stat increasing choice that reminded me of like the Bloody Mess perk in Fallout. So these perks I'm just really excited about because they actually sound character building and game changing and gameplay fortifying. Like you are going more and more into a particular role that you are playing. And then they also have flaws. Now these flaws seem to be a little bit better. I'm still a little iffy because like as someone who's played and beat Outer Worlds multiple times, your boy really never took a flaw on. I just kind of like the idea of the system, but they have ones like bad knees where you crawl around really quick. So if you're a stealth build, this is good. But if you stand up, your knees crack and you alert everyone around you. I thought that was brilliant. The kleptomaniac one, though, is a perfect example to me of like a bad flaw that I'd never take. Oh, you can sell things for more bits. Great, that sounds good. But you can also automatically accidentally steal things just by looking at it. I think it's funny, but it definitely seems like the pain in the ass reload my old save to get rid of type of flaw that I won't want to keep around. They have overprepared though, which seems like a better balanced one. Like, hey, you have bigger magazine size now because you're like me and you're always reloading constantly. Like, I never finish a clip in an FPS game. I'm always reloading my magazine. So this game says, okay, you want to do that? Go ahead. You have a bigger magazine, but you get a debuff if you ever empty your magazine. I'm like, that is an interesting flaw there. So it seems like they've keyed in on the kind of pros and cons of the flaw system. So I hope more are like the two I've mentioned in overprepared and bad knees, because those fortify your gameplay style while giving you a clear drawback to them. There's ones like the Sun Gazer where I'm like, I will never play a full game looking like that. I'm good, dude. Now, based on what I've read online and based on what I've read in my comment section, there's like a little war over the Outer Worlds 1 being good or not. I guess I'm on the side, if you will, that thinks the Outer Worlds 1 is magnificent. I love that game. But the Fallout vibes are so strong with this sequel. A radio with that kind of 50s style music, bro, you can't tell me that's not fire. You can't. The radios in video games. Nothing gets me going like radios in video games, because also each major faction has their own set of tracks, their own stations. That sounds familiar. That's also Fallout, but they react to your choices. That also sounds familiar. Like they're even using war and propaganda to uplift the game's themes and the stories and the factions. I'm like, Fallout. And then they show third person. I'm like, oh my God. Not only that, but it's actual good third person. And by that, I mean, combat character animations like sliding, jumping, drifting look great, but more importantly, it's a seamless little button swap. But that camera rotation to me was like straight up super Fallout. So yeah, like my Fallout sensibilities are kicking in here, but that's kind of what drove my love of the Outer Worlds 1. I didn't love it more than Fallout, but like I was like, yes, this is so much of what I love of these types of games. This is what I love from Obsidian. So just those vibes, like again, the radio station, dude, sick. These areas are massive, though, compared to the Outer Worlds 1. Much more vast, much more open world, hopefully full of meaningful content. That remains to be seen. The general shooting and movement looks great. Double jumping, dashing in midair, just aiming down sights, general recoil. This all looks massively improved, but what I love that they lean into, man, that Bethesda, if you're watching this, man, someone put a note into Todd Howard. Legendary weapons suck. Please, unique weapons, because look what Obsidian's doing here. You got guns that shoot tumors that you then eat the tumors of. Like, unique weapons and armor are sick. And this game is loaded with cool science weapons and gadgets. You have guns that level up as you use them. Like, that is the unique trait of it. And it has like a big yay kind of explosion when it does level up. There's a gun that shoots out advertisements and blows up when you distract the enemies. You can throw science grenades that float enemies into the air. There's also distractions you can throw. The shrink ray now lets you step on enemies. There's an Armageddon weapon that has like little tentacles that flop around and slap your enemies and kill them. They have science armor now. And the name they picked with all this fallen energy, Gary, come on, dude. Sick. And then Spectrum Dance Saber, like a little rhythm sword. That's awesome. Like, this is what I want out of my unique weapons and armor. This is some next level stuff to me. Like, I love finding these in the environment or completing quests and being like, what is this thing? And equipping it and be like, oh, it's got its own properties. Like a sword that vibes. Come on. The character animation and dialogue looks much better compared to the Outer Worlds one. Looks better in general. So I definitely liked that. We'll see though, because what I learned with Starfield is when I saw that, I went, oh, massive improvement. But then the industry around it kind of came to life and it was like, oh, this doesn't look as good, but definitely improvement for Obsidian. And then they showed off the bridge quest after all of this. They kind of brought it together and you see guns blazing, sneaking in, bypassing the bridge thanks to gadgets that you earned separately earlier in the game, sacrificing a companion to get in. Like, there are really cool choice and consequence and exploration driven ways to just get through this area. And again, Avowed scratched the surface of a lot of these. Like, Avowed had improved level design in some of like its dungeons. They're like, oh, okay, interesting, a little more explorable, a little more open, but this seems to be really driving it up another level. Again, I got to play it to know it and believe it, but just watching this developer direct multiple times, I was like, damn, okay, like this is nice. Now, one of the questions I had with the Outer Worlds 2 was its story. I'm like, what's happening? We're like, where's my girl Parvati at? Like, what's going on with the Outer Worlds 2 and the story and the characters? So what's happening here is Arcadia is a colony that has been isolated. It's run by the Protectorate. This is a company that's offering security in exchange for freedom. So like, they're just kind of this militaristic faction, which as they talk about in the developer direct, like they lean into kind of World War I style visuals in this game. So it's kind of a story about war, militarism, and that's very different from the more corporate overlord style approach of the Outer Worlds 1. There seemed to be still comedy as part of this game, goofiness, but more in its gameplay rather than its characters and its storytelling and its dialogue, outside of like the dumb dialogue selections and whatnot. Like, it seemed to take itself a lot more seriously. Basically, what's happening in this world is that the Protectorate, who created the skip drives that allow you to get all over the solar system, are creating rifts, and these are cutting off Earth colonies from trade. And I don't know if you can like enter these rifts, but again, I look at them and I think of the Oblivion Gates. I'm like, this is oddly familiar. But still, there's other factions that are involved, like the Order of the Ascendant. This is like a science religious faction that broke off from the Protectorate, and they're trying to predict and alter the future based on like mathematic equations. And so they're crazy, but they're kind of like good too. And then there's also what I think is a brilliant idea in Auntie's Choice. So you have Auntie Cleo from, of course, the Outer Worlds 1. You have Spacer's Choice from the Outer Worlds 1. And this game puts them both together to be like the one sole corporate faction in the game that kind of represents that spirit of game one. I just think there's an opportunity here for like really funny commentary from Obsidian on how like the games industry has transformed through a faction like this. So all three of these factions have a vested interest in how you solve this conflict involving the rifts and how you're protecting legacy versus trade routes versus just doing what's right for the people. And involved in this are 6 companions. They talk about Niles, who's another Earth Directorate agent who has a helper bot named Vale. There's Marisol, who is like a deadly mathematician. Aza, who is like an evil cultist. And I emphasis on evil because they talk about her kind of like killer instinct and that kind of nature deep within her. And I like that because I love the Outer World 1's cast, but a lot of good people in that cast, a lot of nice people in that cast. I like when a companion is inherently evil and you have to kind of wrestle with that dynamic with Niles, who seems to be at least a nicer guy. I could be wrong though. Niles might be like a really evil dude underneath it all. I don't know. There's Enes, who is a combat medic and a failed experiment. And so that one was interesting to me. And then also Tristan, who's like this arbiter that judges wrongdoer. So very much a different group here, but one thing they mentioned that I thought was neat is that they're weaving more of these companions into the main story. That is a drawback of the Outer Worlds one without the DLC. With the DLC, everyone gets their moment finally, even though it's in different pockets of the game, but to have them kind of woven in, and as they described and hinted toward, like based on choices you make, they will react to how you've been treating them by the end of the game. So that vested interest will likely make them better characters, where the Outer Worlds one did have some, I think, throwaway companions. That's a lot of what we learned through the trailers and the breakdowns and everything. And overall, I look at that and I go, hey, they're taking everything from the first game that I loved, bringing it forward, and then improving it and adding features that I never expected, but also features that I think are going to make the game better. Like, hey, more science weapons, great. More choice and consequence, great. Better character building that strips out some of the unrefined nature of the Outer Worlds 1 and brings in something stronger, more option-driven, that gives me more replayability. Like, that stuff is awesome. Open, expansive, a radio system, third person, like, it's checking all these boxes for me. I'm still excited, but the $80 thing, like even with Game Pass, makes it a little bit awkward. And as I've said before, when you look at these $80 games, it has to speak to your every sensibility. A game like Mario Kart World, which I paid $80 for, I didn't get this as a pack-in, as you can tell. This is a game I'm a little hit or miss on, because while I think online racing and the Grand Prix and Knockout Tour are really good times, like the open world is kind of to me. And I'm like, this is more like a $60 game, because this component of the game, it's like 2/3 of the game have delivered. So for me, the Outer Worlds really aligns with all of my tastes and things I look for in games. And I think anyone watching me knows this. Is it $100 type good? I can think of like 1 or 2 games I would go that far for. KOTOR Remake, Elder Scrolls 6. Those are probably the only 2 I can think of off the top of my head that I would go that far for, because that's a lot of money. But again, $80, as I've said before, it has to align with like your every single taste. For me, you know the games I love. I've shown since like 2011 when I really started to dive into Bethesda style games. This stuff speaks to me. So $80, I definitely blink at and go, okay, you've got to be great. I'm going to be harsher on you. But at the same time, because I am committed to these things that I know I love in games, I'm like, I want to play that. So the $80 doesn't push me away, but I just think the mistake here was letting Outer Worlds 2 be the one to take the fall. I really think it should have been Call of Duty, because no doubt Call of Duty will be $80, but the fact that Outer Worlds 2 is pushing $80, I think if this was a $70 game compared to what we just saw, would have softened the conversation so much more. And I think people would have been more excited. So I totally get people are well within their rights to react and go, 80, get the hell out of here with that. What this communicates to me is that everything's going 80, because it is one of those, even if the Outer Worlds 2 is going to be 80, and that's not a Mario Kart World, and that's not a Call of Duty, like there are levels to that budget, right? If the Outer Worlds 2 is going to push 80, get ready. Everything's going to push 80 now, because this is now the second step in that direction, where it's like, okay, now we see the scale and how it moves, but the price stays the same. So as much as I think the Outer Worlds 2 looks great, that $80, man, I'm just like, you got to be like, to me, top of your class to be charging that much. Because we were talking GTA 6 or Mario Kart World, which is like, okay, it's a top of its class kart racing game. There's not going to be a better kart racer unless Sonic Racing Crossworlds does something really amazing that's better than Mario Kart World for a while. So it's like, okay, that's got to be the standard for your $80 video games. Can the Outer Worlds 2 do that? We'll see. Game Pass definitely helps, though, in that, oh, you don't want to pay $80? Signing up for $20, $25, not really a bad deal at the end of the day. And I think that's how most people will play. But no doubt, the sales will suffer for it. And people are going to pirate the game, no doubt about it. Like, there will be a rebellion, and understandably so. I don't think people are ready for $80. So I get it. And yeah, that's where I kind of stand on the whole thing. It's really unfortunate. So let me know what you think of the Outer Worlds 2 down below. Are you going to be interested in learning more about it? Are you thinking about pre-ordering? I mean, there's a ton of options. And I think that's the other thing $80 runs into is like, yeah, it looks great, but I'll wait until it's 70. And I think that's a very short wait in today's games industry climate. So that's where I'm at on things. Y'all let me know what you think down below on the Outer Worlds 2, and I will catch you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.